Robots Radio presents...
Today's chat is brought to you by, well, all of your support. Through the patronage you provide the Focus Fire chat team through Podbean's crowdfunding, we are able to provide you with the weekly podcast as well as the website and other aspects of Focus Fire chat. If you have any interest in becoming a patron of the FFC, please be sure to visit our website and click on the support link. Even a single dollar helps, and for those of you who are already patrons, thank you again for your generosity.
You may have heard the whispers of guardians gathering in the shadows, exploring the mysteries of this world and the worlds which surround us. We are all in search of truth. Sometimes we need to focus that search. Focus that fire. And so we come together. Welcome to Focused Fire Chat.
Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on October 30th, 2020 over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, I want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. This week's episodes are going to be focused around exploring the new element of stasis. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the intro session of the week's exploration. Before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who all we have with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
I am the Waffle Queen. Hey, it's Orchid.
Waffle Queen, Otter Mom.
Waffle Queen, Otter Mom. Hey, it's Orchid.
And last but definitely not the least, in the hot seat as guest co-host, we have TanyaMBurr. Tanya, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. I'm really excited about the new expansion and really excited to get nerdy with y'all.
Nice.
We're super excited to have you here, too. This is really great.
The ebols are dropping in chat already.
Well, yeah, of course.
Veru's here. Well, now that we have the formal giving of names out of the way, I want to shift focus back over to Tanya. Usually with these intro sessions, we set aside some time to get to know our guests a little bit more. So just real quick, run through, what got you into Destiny? I know you do some art, I believe is how we are familiar with your name. What type of art what medium of art do you use mostly?
Well, I like to work in a lot of different mediums. I've been drawing for as long as I can hold a pencil, and most recently I've started getting into some more merchandise, like little acrylic charms and lanyards. I also do pins and prints. I work both traditional and digital. I'm just all over the place. I mean, this week I started messing around with LED lights to see if I can use that to help enhance my art. I got into Destiny. I wasn't really big into the Halo series before, especially Halo Reach. And then I saw the Bungie's working on a new game, and so I tried out the alpha, and then, rest is history.
That's pretty awesome. So when did that transition into the interest with the actual game lore? I know to me that kind of seems like it would be a very, really cool synergy. Knowing more about the stories helps design or helps kind of graphically show that. But is that something that you have found as well, or?
Well, the thing that really drew me into Destiny was back in Destiny 1, I was at the tower just talking to Cade for something, and I exited out, and he was like, "Psst, take me with you." And from that moment, Destiny wasn't just another game that I was playing. I realized there was a deeper world, and so I started reading into the grimoire, and there was the ARGs and everything that Bungie was doing. It just absolutely sucked me in, and I just consumed every available story that they had. I read all of the lore on the different items, and it was amazing to me how deep of a world that they had created. And there's a lot of it that they leave it just open enough that you can start to kind of fill in the gaps and theorize yourself. And, I know that with Destiny, it was that they had to make some changes at the last minute, so they weren't able to present the story they had originally intended, but the pieces of it were still there. And so, I'm in this Destiny Slack where I become the moderator of the lore channel. That's I'm one of the people where people have a question and they just they'd ask me about it. And I just love how deep that it's gotten, and also getting to having a big interest in the game. I've also kind of come to learn through other people's stories, just how Bungie works as a company, and it's gotten me to understand why the lore is as it is and have a greater appreciation for that way. So I don't know if I'm making any sense or just rambling.
It sounds pretty. It's actually pretty similar to a lot of the people that we've had on the show and talked to. The growth of that. Whatever that one catalyst was, and then that tipping point into oh wow, there's actually really a lot here, and I like the way that you were talking about how it leaves just enough open to kind of make it a personal connection. That's one of the draws that I think Bungie has, even with Halo, they did a really good job with. They have that. They are often able to find that balance between, world building and character building, and then not stifling. Which is, I think that's a really good. I like the way that you explain that. For your art, you said that you had gotten into the acrylics. I'm a big pen collector, so I'm going to be looking at this. Where can we find that? Do you have a Etsy, or do you have a storefront, a digital storefront that people can see stuff that you do, or is that just all on Twitter? How's the best way to interact with you outside of the show?
Well, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at TanyaMBurr. I had to put the middle initial in there because there is a British influencer who also shares my first and last name. I've gotten some of her fan mail and also some invites to makeup events, but that's besides the point. You can find me at TanyaMBurr, or at TanyaMBurr on Twitter, and my pinned tweet is a link to my store.
Cool. And we'll have that. We'll definitely put that in the show notes for anyone who is curious and interested in that. So kind of to dovetail back into, tonight's or this week's topic, I guess. What calls or what makes the idea of stasis? I know you and I were talking about this a little bit beforehand, but is there a reason why stasis as a topic kind of stood out to you for interest purposes?
So just in the different way that stasis works from other light-based powers, in their lore, there's stuff about the darkness, bringing people in or bringing energies and absorbing, whereas the light kind of goes out, which in itself brings a nice kind of balance. But part of his Griffin, one of the community managers, insistence that it is not ice, and so and in some of the copy, it's referred to as cosmic ice, and so I started looking at the laws of thermodynamics to see what kind of, because ice generally doesn't spontaneously grow out of nowhere. So with the I'm putting my thoughts into a specific order, and that order is that matter doesn't change in it. Well, there's always a constant amount of energy. It just changes. I am totally. Really
it's the law. Yeah, it's the law. It's the
law of conservation of energy.
Conservation of energy. Yep.
I'm starting to talk about here. And
you see that definitely with the elements that we had already with the void, solar, and arc. And so the stasis is actually kind of an interesting component that's getting added into that mix for sure. So, yeah.
Yeah, my theory on how, like, the deep part of how stasis works is that what you're expelling isn't ice. What you're expelling is a type of paracausal field that absorbs heat, and because of that rapid absorption of heat, the ice forms around, you're making the ice wall, or I'm using ice as a shorthand, but like the power itself, I think, is not the ice. It's that energy that draws in the heat and creates the ice. And then because that energy is so rapidly absorbed, it is also expelled extremely rapidly in the form of an explosion. And so that's like the short version of how I think stasis power works. And having it be something so different, mechanically than any of the powers that we've had so far in Destiny is really exciting. I main a hunter, and I'm excited to try out the Revenant subclass and be an ice ninja.
See, I was gonna ask. That was my next question: is what class do you primarily play under? So I'm glad that we're keeping Orchid in check with her dual focus of Titan Warlock.
Well,
I like to think I main a Fellwinter, which is a warlock that likes to shoulder charge things.
You're not wrong.
I am correct in every way.
You also broke the sundials. So.
I also broke the sundial. This is what I am known for, is that I am the Titan that broke the sundial. I am a paladin, apparently, Veer said.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm so sorry for you.
Yeah. I would also kill a ghost. Apparently, I am a bad guardian that would kill ghosts, shoulder charge things as a warlock, broke the sundial. I have a real bad rap sheet, guys. I should just delete the game.
Delete. Well, you deleted your vault, right?
I should just delete the Traveler while I'm at it. Team Triangle for the win. Team Circle's lame. Team Triangle for the win.
You might have a point there. Did it?
Yep. Well, yeah, I got 3 points. Team Triangle.
So, while I do main a hunter, I do play all 3 characters. And, I find good things about all of them, but hunter has always been my default, even if certain things are easier on Warlock and Titan. Like, I guess that's one way to look at it, is I like to play on the very hardest mode, which is play as a hunter.
Yep, that's what I've said. Everyone makes fun of it, but, especially in Destiny 1, Warlock was easy mode, because they had the reset button.
Oh, yeah. That was
Working slave. So anyways, let's move on to announcements.
At least I don't have to carry my blankie with me everywhere like you guys do.
Hey, at least we have a jump.
I don't need to jump. Who needs to jump when I can float everywhere?
You don't float, you gracefully fall.
Ultimate laziness.
Floofing.
Float.
You floof.
Or I can abuse
you floof about
that mode. I sang my way all the way around Destiny. Better believe it.
Pretty sure when that's like the only subclass I played when I played Warlock in D1 was I was like, wait, I can redo this whole thing? Yes, that's the one. Oh my gosh.
No, I like to use Blink. I mainly played Nova Bomb, so.
Nova Bomb!
I like to blink my way around things. And then Blink got in D2. And now I have to wear a helmet if I want to, like, in D1. So I don't do it.
Well, they just want you to blink safely. So the specific helmet.
Yeah, I will admit, though, that Devour is easy game for babies mode. So, yeah. It really is.
Right.
All right.
Well,
Sorry, Blue.
No. You're fine.
all
I
good.
just have a couple announcements for the week, just the standard ones. I just wanted to remind people to check out thelorenetwork.com. Let us know your thoughts on the weekly roundups that we have going on over there, as well as the Destiny Armory Defined articles. Those get put up weekly as well. And then also just a general reminder, if you guys do have a couple minutes, we do appreciate it if you would leave us a review over on iTunes or whichever podcasting app you are listening to. As far as podcasts go, reviews and ratings actually go very far. So we really, really appreciate that. As well, please also do the same to the Destiny Lore audio file. If you guys are not familiar with that, that is Green's project. She is basically taking all of the lore books and translating them into kind of an audio book format that's getting released on a weekly basis as well. So yes, definitely give those both a review and a rating if you would not mind to do so. With that being said, I'm actually going to take a bit of a break right now, and then when we get back, we're going to jump right into kind of what we've started to call the cocktail knowledge segment of Stasis.
Should introduce myself. I'm Corin Black, a humble half-demon, and folks around Baltimore call me the Devil's Runt. Here we go. Finally moving again.
How do you feel about methamphetamines?
You know, devil's blood don't make you a devil.
Under the Shroud. Fantasy, noir, and horror from Baltimore's sin-soaked streets. Find creator Ian Humphrey on Twitter at fictionalian.
All right, so Stasis.
Tell me all about it.
So Stasis is, I think that for a while there, it was going back and forth whether or not Stasis was an actual element. And then we got the description, and it is actually described as an element born of darkness. And they go on, they say, in its base form, it is an alluring, lethal cosmic energy that, when wielded correctly, can attach itself to surfaces, objects, and beings. Due to its freezing nature, this process manifests itself in the formation of cold, crystalline structures that leave a patterned stasis footprint behind, which is where we get the idea of that, like, cosmic ice type cosmic ice type theme, with those crystalline structures. And so, and then further on, you see cold and dark and alluring. These are the kind of the thematic tones of Stasis. They say, control the fight, seize your enemies in an icy grip, and shatter them where they stand. And then they go to further within... Oh, sorry, I was double-checking chat. Yes, this is all from the infographic that was attached to the TWAB, or, well, some of this is. They went on to describe this as a new take on on elemental power, where the path to victory is found through controlling the enemy and the pace of the fight, instead of through brute force and damage, which kind of goes back to, I think, Tanya, what you had been saying about this kind of being a step away from what we've seen so far, and it being a new take on the power that we as Guardians have. Let me see, what else do we got? We do have also Stasis is introduced kind of synonymously with the figure of Aramis, because basically they introduce Aramis as the Kell of Darkness who is bestowing Stasis on her forces, which is an interesting twist, because it makes me curious if Stasis is going to have the same paracausal potency that the Guardians have with the power of the light. I'm curious about the paracausal nature of Stasis, and to see how that gets kind of rectified within there, because so far it is the Guardians having the Traveler's Light that has allowed them to manifest the powers of Solar, Arc, and Void in a powerful manner. So I'm curious to see how the darkness imbuing the various factions with Stasis is gonna kind of counteract that. That's one of my like things that I have out in waiting to see how that works out. They go on to, with the hunters, they talk about the stasis field. Titans have the stasis crystal. The warlocks kind of have they are more about the freezing of things than the shattering. So it's kind of like a little bit of a combination of the both of them. Stasis is referred to as the domain of control. It's less about outright aggression and more about careful control of not just your combatants and not just your opponents, but also the space that you are in. And let me see. Sapphire said, as Guardians, we normally overwhelm our enemies with the raw power of the light. Stasis seems like a manifestation in shift if thought from force to strategy on paracausal level. That is actually, I like that. And Black Flag is correct too. We do see Aramis in, I believe that was the story trailer that they released. She actually shatters a servitor with stasis. That was actually kind of deviating a little bit there. That is actually something that I am very intrigued in, is seeing how the Fallen, there's a lot of calling out of breaking the chains that the Fallen have had with regards to ether. We saw this attempt a little bit with the Scorn and Fickrel, but I'm very curious to see how Stasis is going to allow them to, air quote, become free of those chains. Let's see. I don't know if you guys have anything that you wanted to weigh in on that one.
Well, in terms of being chained to things, the Fallen, the Elixni rely on the servitors to provide them with ether as their source of sustenance, their source of survival. And it sounds like they can get the same source from the darkness. And so, breaking themselves off of that reliance on ether, that's like, they're still I'm sure that this has been brought up on another podcast, but how the servitors are around and also the traveler is around. Mm-hmm. They're kind of like replacements for the Great Machine. And I'm not sure if there was anything that said that the Great Machine gave them ether. Because I'm wondering, if it started out with the Traveler giving them ether and then they just got hooked to it like a drug. And now they're getting hooked to darkness as another drug. Mm-hmm. On some levels, I wonder whether the Elixni really need ether or this stuff at all, if it's just some source of power that they've become accustomed to and is just like a part of their culture. And it'd be interesting to see if they brought things in a different direction. I mean, you have Mithrax as the House of Light, and I don't think that Mithrax has gotten any powers from the Traveler, so there might be a third way that they could go, maybe. But being able to choose your own destiny, excuse the pun. Mm-hmm. I can understand that the Elixni have just been, beaten down time and time again, from invading forces and then being abandoned by the Great Machine, and then, chasing after it and getting beaten down by Guardians. It's been a rough life, and I totally understand they're wanting to have their time to shine.
No, and I agree with that. I would say, the thing with the servitors is we do know that the servitors were around during the Elixni's golden age because of some comments from Varix and his relationship with Fickrel. And that was, now as far as the ether consumption, I see that argument, and I actually have similar thoughts. Trigger actually pointed out something as well. If stasis, Trigger's saying, if stasis slows energy's movement, it could also mean that they're using stasis to slow the ether consumption within them, which would be an interesting sidestepping of the requirement. With the Fallen, we do have repeated attempts to kind of break free from this addiction, as you kind of talked about it with the ether. We saw it with Fickrell. We saw it with the corrupted ether that he had. We saw it with Siva with back in D1. And, Siva was more of an augmentation with the Devil Splicers than anything, but there was ultimately an attempt by Axis to bypass the ether there. With Varix and with Mithrax, they are definitely still operating within the requirement of the Fallen to have ether. And you see that with Varix because Varix starves himself with ether. Like he has ration. We saw that with the Forsaken lore books. He has cut his intake of ether down significantly to the point that Petra comments about, you need to eat more. And so regardless of, I think, if they needed ether to begin with, I think at this stage in their evolutionary development from a character standpoint, it's absolutely needed. Like they have to have it at this point. Because we've seen when they take a captain and their punishment is to take the ether away from that captain, they actually shrink. They physically are like they deteriorate physically. That's called out with Varix again, with his frailness. Which is an interesting thing because in one of the trailers we see Aramis kind of knock him around a bit, and then freeze his feet to the ground. I'm curious to see how he gets himself out of that particular predicament.
I'm worried for Varix. Like, I know that he let the Scorn loose, and that is why Cade died. And going back to earlier and how Cade was one of the reasons I got into Destiny in the first place, in one of my products, which I'm going to be putting back up on the store soon, I had it for Guardian Con.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yep, that was me. Cade 6 prayer candle. And
so cute, though.
He's holding a little chicken.
It's really adorable. That's so cute. Toki, I swear to God.
It will be back. I did manage to find some more stickers, and I will have those back on my store soon. But anyway, you would think that because of how highly I hold Cade, that I would absolutely hate Varix. But man, I really liked Varix in Destiny 1 as well. But part of it is like you knew that you could not trust him. Like he was always asking, it's like, can I see your ghost? and it's like, would you like to trade for it? And all of that kind of stuff. So, him pulling a move that he thinks is going to help his people, I totally get that. And it's not like he was like, now go and kill Cade. So, I was briefly mad at Varix when Forsaken came out, but I am still worried about him now. They've sort of mentioned him being a character, and like I would be sad if they end up killing him off. I'm hoping that they don't.
I really hope they don't, because Varix in his own way, he's not an enemy. Like he doesn't, his interests don't necessarily align with our own, but in some ways they do. And in a way, Varix's character is doing what our characters are doing for humanity. He's doing for the Fallen. Like kind of what you were saying there. He's like, Varix is trying to find a way out of this like indentured servitude, if you will, to whatever it is. Like he makes comments about that from way back when we were introduced to him. He's constantly calling out that, and in Varix's whole story is all about choosing what he perceives to be the right path. That was his entire reason for betraying Skolas, was Skolas slaughtered innocents, and Varix was like, yeah, no, we're not gonna do that. Like that's not okay, Mara. this guy needs to be put in, like, and even then you saw Varix in a way kind of have mercy on Skolas because he imprisoned him. He didn't kill him. And then you also see that with Fikrul. Varix is constantly trying, like with Fikrul, Varix was constantly trying to heal him. And so I'm curious to see his reaction to Aramis, because, Varix is also with his character spotlight video, which I absolutely love Bungie for putting those out. But his big quote on those particular things was that the only thing in darkness is death. And he has, like, in the clip that you see where he kind of confronts Aramis, you have him kind of almost begging her to come back, like, from the brink that she's standing on, it seems like. So again, he's been portrayed as this character that is doing what our characters are doing, but he's doing it for, this faction or this race that, we are pretty commonly at odds with. And Viru is talking about, he is one of the only witnesses of the original, like, of the Elixni Golden Age left. So he's, he kind of calls that out with, when he talks about, oh gosh, I can't remember, the Kella Kings, being one of the only other ones other than him and Fikrul that were around at that, around and that really remember the way of the Elixni of old. And I get a lot of people are like, well, he killed Kate, and it's like, well, not really. Like he set the events in motion. Like, he was a catalyst, but he was not, kind of what you were saying. He didn't be like, he's like, all right, I'm going to let you guys out, but you need to stay here because this guy's going to come and I need you to shoot him. Like, that wasn't, he has his bone to pick with Cade and with the Vanguard for sure, but I don't think I don't take Varix as the type of person who's like, we're going to assassinate this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Black Flag. Yeah. He's been vehemently against the forced methods of evolution that the Fallen have chosen so far. Against Siva, he was vehemently against Siva. I mean, he was almost physically ill when, what was it, Sepkus Perfected popped up on screen. He was like, what? And then Scorn, he tried everything in his power to reverse that. And so far from what we've seen with Stasis, he's also kind of, he's again kind of showing that let's pump the brakes, guys. That's not really a good thing. But real quick, I think we'll take another little quick ad break, and then when we jump back, let's talk about, let's see, what else do we have here just on a general level? Well, actually, let's Tanya, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about the thermodynamics here at the end to kind of lead us into the advanced session, if that's good enough. You think that would work?
Do you like adventure?
Yeah.
Do you like laughing?
Yeah.
Would you like to listen to a group of people you don't know play D&D and reference retro pop culture you vaguely remember? Excellent. You're going to love Committee Quest. We play D&D in the world of Amarin. We use adventure modules and supplements made by people in the community. We also have a sweet synthwave backing track. Come and join us on our adventure. Volume 1 has been completed. Volume 2 coming the end of January. You can find us on iTunes, Podbean, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
All right, let me pull up my notes. So a lot of this I've already covered, but if you're late tuning in. So in thermodynamics, you got and related to thermodynamics, you've got the law of the conservation of energy, which states that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only change form. Now, with paracausality kind of throws a bit of this out the window, but because, as a guardian, you're constantly putting out light. But, with the light, you got the darkness. It's two opposite but equal forces. Actually, we don't know all that much about that. Anyway, the darkness draws in energy, absorbing the theory I mentioned earlier is like the ice that we see is the result of the power of the darkness, which it's drawing in the energy, absorbing the heat, and making that ice. And then, because it's such a violent reaction, it then explodes, and now you got the shattering. It's really cool sound effects. It's a Bungie way. But yeah, the universe is always trying to balance itself out, right? Mm-hmm. You have energy and heat, but it might take thousands and thousands of years, but that'll eventually cool. So you got stars, these big gas giants constantly putting out heat, but we've seen evidence in the universe that eventually those go out. So kind of going back to that, the lore card with the game between the light and the dark, that paracausality is, I think, is what the light, like breaking the rules and making up their own game because they keep losing, and the powers of the darkness, I think, is the darkness going, well, if you're going to break the rules, I am too. And so it's where we're getting our darkness powers from.
Well, and the other way to look at the paracausal component is that, paracausality is the sidestepping of causality. It's literally what that means. And so, like, you don't have to worry about the cause and effect process with paracausal capabilities. And so, like, with the different elements, it's literally the manifestation of these elements without cause. It's literally you are summoning the effect, but you don't have to worry about a cause being present. And so with stasis, the stasis crystals, for example, is described as, it's the solid form of stasis, and it's a violent and unstable block of crystal. And the way that these particular crystals form is it's the focused stasis energy that is connecting with matter in the environment, and then it freezes, basically it freezes nearby enemies and renders them all immobile. But it's also highly unstable, which is where you get that shattering, and then, that explosion of those sharp, jagged crystals. So it, again, going back to, it's not necessarily ice, it's cosmic ice. And cosmic ice is this crystalline, when we talk about ice, we often think about liquid and then into ice. This is something that is much more, it doesn't have to have a liquid form. It is something that is crystalline. It is a crystal. And so when you're talking about like that paracausality, it's literally the formation of these crystals from nothing. They're summoning them basically into existence. You see that with the Sunbreaker when he pulls out a hammer. Well, normally you have to have a hammer and then light it on fire for it to be a flaming hammer, but with the Sunbreaker, it just appears. Same with the Gunslinger. These are the easiest ones. The Dawnblade has the same. Any of the ones that they manifest those components, because they are manifesting them out of, air quote, thin air, that is by definition paracausality. And so with stasis, what we're seeing is these manifestations of this crystalline element, really same thing, out of nothing. You see that with the stasis field, whereas the stasis crystal is the focused, energy. The stasis field is described as unfocused. It's an unfocused it's a sphere of influence that is basically just filled with this dark elemental power. And what it does is, because it's so unfocused, it's attaching to anything that enters into that sphere. So that's why you have all your enemies that enter into that area, they slow down because they're getting bogged down with all this dark power. And so what happens is your enemy enters the field, the stasis energy just attaches it, and eventually what happens is they get encased in these crystals, because by matter entering this sphere of influence, it is allowing that unfocused energy to focus and form the crystals. So you get this like this confluence of this elemental thing that you are calling out of nothing, and that's where you get that paracausal component. Trigger's talking about sublimation, which is gas turned to ice. Yeah, I mean, and that's it's exactly it. Black Flag mentions it's all based on the fundamental forces like entropy, heat, death, etc. And we kind of mentioned this too at the beginning of the episode. You see that with the existence in the previous trifecta, you had the solar, the void, and the arc. Trigger. Okay, cool. That was the opposite. With solar, void, and arc, we had a cycle established. So my curiosity gets sparked because it's like, okay, where in this cycle technically is stasis going to be fitting? Is it going to be after void in the cycle, or is it going to be after arc? Where exactly in that is that? And that's going to be where I really kind of am curious to see how they kind of describe this.
So I do have a thing that I noticed during Luke Smith's interview that he did on Twitch the other day. Mm-hmm. He did say that I'm pretty sure that I heard that he said that stasis is like the start of the darkness powers. So looking how the darkness relates to the light, you might want to think a little bit outside of how stasis fits in with those three, mm-hmm. and think about how, because it sounds like we're going to have more darkness powers besides stasis sometime years from now, probably.
My counter argument to that is that I would still, I'm curious to see, because up until now, at least, those three elements have been separated from, they are not light. Light is the manifest. Light is using those elements because those are cosmic building block energies. So mm-hmm. solar, arc, and void are not, like, you can have solar light, but that does not mean that solar is light. Solar is the element of the fusion. Arc is that spark. Void is the deep vacuum that lies underneath the stasis, or the state of everything in existence. And that's how they've been explained. And then light is something that you then manifest those elements through. So that's where I'm kind of getting, black flag. Solar is fusion, arc is electromagnetism, and void is gravity. And so you don't, like, you can have void light, and it's always like up until stasis. And I'm interested to see if they go in a different direction than this, because up until now it has always been referred to as either solar or solar light. Like when you have something that is elementally connected to light, it is always called out as being arc light or solar light. Whereas you can have solar, the element of solar is something different. It's like a capital L light and lowercase l light kind of difference. It's really very, very fine. Orchid is so happy with me right now.
Well, the separation, that another way to put it might be that you've got solar light and you also have solar energy. In the Savathun Song Strike, we came across those void light crystals, and mm-hmm. the ghost mm-hmm. is always so shocked. It's like, this is void light, and only guardians can do that. And so it makes that clear distinction between energy and light being the thing that only guardians can do. The way that I would think of it is that the darkness is kind of the opposite. So you've got solar flames, you got ice. So, if we're getting more stasis, I don't know whether we'll be having more stasis supers mm-hmm. far into the future. If they do go that route, then I would imagine that it would just be like doing the opposite.
Right.
It's like, what's the opposite of electricity and gravity?
That's what Chad is kind of talking about too, is like, what I could see is, going along that kind of concept of solar, arc, and void as being light powers. Stasis could be the dark equivalent of void. And then you have a dark equivalent of solar and a dark equivalent of arc. I could maybe see something like that. That would be something that would make sense, because it would still tie into this idea of having like an elemental building block, but then having the paracausal energy that is accessing that element block being different there, because the dark allows stasis, but the light uses void. I'm like brainstorming out loud there, and Orchid's just shaking her head at me right now. But
Blue, we're so far in the weeds right now. There's
like,
no coming back from this conversation.
Yeah.
We might as well just stay out here.
Give me 3 minutes and we'll do shoutouts.
Well, if we can transfer into game mechanics for a second, and maybe this'll help. They showed a preview of the upcoming character screens, and when they switch to dark powers, how when you're selecting your super, it's in that those three things there. The darkness is in a completely separate category. It's
which is where I can see like a parallel swap, being like, you have your light powers and then you have your Batman powers or the dark powers.
But
dark mode was added to Destiny. We now have night mode. You have light mode and night mode.
The thing is, we are, because the loading screen is going to be dark now.
Yes! I don't get blinded when I turn on the game.
That's one of the things that they announced like a while ago, and it's not not getting mentioned much again because there's so much else to talk about.
I'm just happy. I'm going with dark mode has been added to Destiny. That just makes so much more sense to my brain.
It works.
Yeah, Orchid, do you use your social media in dark mode or light mode?
I only use it in dark mode because I'm not some sort of light mode troglodyte like the rest of you.
This is why we get along.
I know. Oh, I have a shout out for the light mode right now. We're gonna get into shout outs right now.
Yes, we are. We are going into shout outs right now before I get dovetailed into something else.
Shout out to Myelin Games, who uses light mode on everything.
Everything.
It drives me crazy.
His Twitch streams hurt my eyes.
It hurts my eyes every time he opens anything on his Twitch streams, because I'm like, why do you do this? He's like, but it's light in my room. That's why I have light mode on everything. I was about to say,
please bring in the argument that he has for it. He's like, it's not night.
It's not night. I do this at 6 a.m.
Yes, Dancing also would like us to shout out Mylan's Microsoft Paint skills.
He is pro Microsoft Paint.
His Gears of
War
sketch.
You should actually, one of the best, if you want a really good stream of like the collector's edition, you should go back and watch that stream that he did. It was all in Microsoft Paint. It was really good.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to have to go back. I have not seen this yet. I'm going to have to go back and watch it.
Just go back.
He invented new podcast? Geometric shapes. Oh, Miley. Tanya, do you have any shout outs for the intro session for us?
Oh, man. Shout out to my Slack and to my clan, Disco Technical. One of our founding members is a techie DJ. Actually, DJ Spin Monkey. He might, well, a little bit late. His session might be over now, but I know that he does Twitch streams of his remixes, and he's a really good DJ and also the kindest human being on the face of this earth. So it's
a really good combination there.
He's a great guy. Let's see. Shout out to DJ Spin Monkey. Also going to do shout outs to Rands, the other founding member of the Destiny Slack that I'm on. If you look up his blog, Rands in Response, you can find a link to get an invite to that Slack. We're a group of kind human beings who like to play Destiny together and like to chat in our Slack. So check that out. It's don't have anything prepared.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I just want to give a big shout out to you. Big thank you for you jumping on and being willing to kind of dive into a topic that actually we don't know much about yet. Which for a lot of us, I know some people will find that really daunting. I find that really, really refreshing and exciting, and I love getting to annoy Orchid with my in the weeds spin foil. The side eye is strong here.
Blue, green is the buffer between the two of us because I'm a real dumb, and
that's false.
So you're 200 IQ, like super bumpy brain, like real
super bumpy
big
brain.
Universe, big brain stuff that you can constantly talk about, and then like me, smooth brain, like 10 IQ Jack over here. I'm just like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So
yeah, that being said, though, I'm gonna have you talk about.
You said you were a Titan Warlock.
Yeah,
that tracks.
I just punch things. I wear a dress while doing it. I punch things that look fabulous. I have worn. I've won the fashion award, by the way. So.
Oh, congrats!
Thank you. That's all I'm known for.
With that being said, I love chat. Yeah. Orchid, a scientist, is just like, WTF is he saying?
That's how you know that this has just gone completely into the weeds.
So, on that note, I'm just gonna. Go for it.
Well, real quick, just some things about the mechanics in the actual game. I have a feeling that, like, if you've ever walked through one of those fallen flash grenades, you're gonna get a feeling about how stasis is gonna affect you in some ways. I know that it's gonna be a little bit different, but you get that slowing down. Also, what's the hunter exotic that gives you the 2 dodges? It's the 6 coyote, right?
Yes, I believe so.
So, the upcoming hunter dodge that can freeze nearby enemies and the 6 coyote is going to be a bane in the Crucible. I'm calling it right now. I am like, if you think the jesters were annoying, wait until this combo is around. It's but all the same, I'm looking forward to the next chapter in Destiny, and also shout out to expired ramen coupons.
Yes,
I worked very hard exploiting a thing where you could pick up more than one, and so I have over 60 and less than 70 of these coupons that I've been holding on for 2 years.
I had a nice number of coupons.
Oh, hey! High five! We've got the same number of coupons. And this has been clogging my vault for a couple of years, and I know that it's dark data, and I understand why, but I'm looking. I know there are like Indulgent Human and I think Vanguard Armory Pins both have expired ramen coupon merch.
Yeah, Vanguard just, I think, put out a tweet that he's bringing them back because
I know that. Yeah, Art Deck is also making a 3D model tribute to expired ramen coupons, and I am also working on something. Hopefully, I'll have an announcement on that soon. But I'm going to miss my expired ramen coupons. I'm going to miss my spin foil hat, my chromatic cube, my perfectly normal coin, Hunter of the Heart.
Perfectly normal coin. I forgot about that one.
Hunter of the Heart, the romance novel that charred celery, the Rorik's test.
Box of raisins.
A box of raisins. The Ascendant Artichoke.
Mm-hmm. I'm still waiting for the peanut butter to come back because we have the celery, we have the raisins, but we need peanut butter, and then we can have ants on a log.
apparently we can still have the used toothbrush, which makes sense because it came out in Shadowkeep. But there is a new section of the collections that's been added. I'm not quite sure exactly when it was added, but if you did the Festival of the Lost stuff and you got that lens, if you go into collections and Flare, and then there's like a collectibles thing, you'll see that lens there. And it might be too late in development for Bungie to do this, but if I could have all of those items in collections, I would just be so over the moon, perfectly happy. If it's something that like somewhere down the line they have it so you could pick up once and it's just a thing in your library, that will make up for it. But in the meantime, I'm very sad that they're like, I get it, but still. Sorry, I had to say something about the expired ramen coupons.
Oh yeah, no worries. On that note, I just want to thank you all for your time, and until next time, remember, with wisdom we conquer, stand strong, stand tall, and keep exploring. With that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us for the live streaming of the episodes, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/FocusedFireChat. Links to all our episode archives can be found at www.thelorenetwork.com. Please be sure to email us at focusedfirechat@gmail.com with any comments and or questions for the team concerning the podcast, and let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback and a rating over on iTunes as well. So until next time, focus your fire and may your light shine bright.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.